Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair ni hao, chunashumme, washmale. Ohai Genzaimus, Guten Morgen, Hola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifa hal? Harish Machatore, Ahlan wa Sahlan, Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabi, Aballi, Kere, Hosh Galden, Anayo Sayo, Huyamora, Adab, and thank you very much, everybody, for tuning into PTV World, and you're certainly watching World this morning. Alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Ms. Haja Sati. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there in this dry weather is doing wonderfully well and that they're looking after themselves, because unfortunately I couldn't, and I'm still recovering, alhamdulillah, thanks to all of those people who've been praying. But first things first, hello Haja, how are you doing today?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for introducing me, and Allah give you shifa. Because I do feel that it's very dry weather outside, and there is no prediction of rain anytime sooner. Although I did heard that there is some system which is going to enter into the Balochistan, and there might be rain in Balochistan, and then it will move forward towards the northern areas.
We hope so.
Coming in Islamabad. Having said so, this is a climate anomaly, because normally it wasn't like that. Right, Shahzad? And now let's talk about one of the very favorite pastime of the South Asia, of the subcontinent, which is the pigeon rearing, right? I do feel that, especially if you go to a lot of shrines, you would see that there are a lot of pigeons there.
Yeah.
And there's something which is associated with the shrines that is called serenity. And when you see the pigeons, you feel that vibe. Especially if you go to that shrine with their Sikhism, you will find that there are a lot of pigeons there. And like you were telling me, that people also keep them in order to feed them, so that their duas could be heard, something like that. And also we could see that there are a lot of pigeons in our houses, and there's a lot of myths surrounding the pigeons.
For example,
my mom says that wherever the pigeons in that particular house, after some time that house get decrowded, or it gets viran, something like that. So it's not the fault of the globalization or urbanization, it is the fault of pigeons in the first place.
I think we as a nation have a habit of putting things onto somebody. We always blame.
True.
I mean, just very recently when England was here to play cricket, we kind of blamed the pitch. Hey, you know what, it wasn't really the pitch, which actually gave bowlers the opportunity. But having said that, there are a few things which I have known about the pigeons. I don't know whether they're true or not, because I've always been, a pet keeper.
Okay.
So I've always had pigeons, I've had dogs, and I've always been in love with dogs and horses. But pigeons, because my mother really wasn't agreeing to me keeping dogs, so she said, okay, you can probably keep pigeons. So what I've witnessed is that one thing which I love about them the most is that, you open up their cage right early in the morning.
Right.
They would go all through the day, they would fly around, do whatever they want to do, and right before Maghrib, they would be back in their cage.
Yes.
I think that's something which I've loved. But one thing which I've witnessed for sure myself, that whenever a pigeon actually sees a cat coming towards the pigeon only closes the eyes, and thinks that the cat's not around. I don't think that that's a great idea, and it might really be hard for us to do so.
Why not fly in the first place? You have the wings, right?
I mean, I don't
Why
know.
close the eyes, right?
Yeah, I don't know. So it might be a myth too as well.
Yeah.
And then there's one more thing about pigeons, and that is that, when we see, since you've mentioned that, that it's a great time pass for people over here. Well, it's not really a time pass. It's a hobby.
True.
It's a very fierce competition, where what they do is that these pigeons actually cost somewhat around 2 million to 5 million rupees as well. Yes. And they're, the hierarchy actually goes back to quite a lot of years. It might be 100 years old, the generation you might be carrying.
I think it's older than that, because Mughals used to keep them in their courts, and it was also their favorite pastime. And
the romanticism, I think pigeons actually played a bigger role in romanticism as well, not just in romanticism, I think even in wars. That's how they used to send in their messages. But not just that, so over here what we do is that we have this competition where what we do is that, for example, if I had a pigeon, it's up in the air, and you had a pigeon, it's up in the air. So we fly them together, and then we wait for the next 2 or 3 days, that whenever whoever pigeon is going to land first will lose. So it's the competition of who can fly the most. And I don't know whether we should do it with those amazing pigeons out there, because imagine that, they must get tired, and as soon as they land, so there's a lot of massages which are given to them. But you try keeping dana or probably bajra outside your house. It's a sadka as well.
True.
And you will see a lot of birds coming in. Just like at shrines, that's what people do for sadka, and it's a great sadka as well. You start to throw mutton, chicken, something of that sort, you will see a lot of eagles and crows and everybody coming onto it. So ladies and gentlemen, I think that's it for pigeons. Lovely creature, very safe, not harmful at all. And I don't know whether the house is going to get decrowded or not. I didn't witness that.
Something like that. So moving on to our top stories, which is Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif says that transition to solar energy is inevitable for improving our economy. And I do feel that we are moving in the right direction when it comes to solar energy, because Shahzad, whenever I go to my street, I could see there are a lot of houses that have solar panels installed into them. So I do feel people are reverting back to or going towards this clean and greener energy of the solar. And considering the fact that there's a lot of inflation, there's a global inflation, I think solar energy is the best answer to that. Have you have solars in your house?
It is. I mean, obviously, we do not have solars in our house because we do not own our house. You know, so that was this debate which I would always had with my, which I've had with my father.
Okay.
But now I think that we certainly really need to move on to solar, because you can take off the plates, take it to wherever you're actually going.
True.
So imagine, I think that the entire system actually costs you around 1 or 1.5 million rupees.
Yes,
And,
1.5 million.
So imagine that, you know, if in an average household, you know, the electricity bill is somewhat around 50 to 60,000 rupees. It takes 2 years of the bill, which is going to pay for that. Not just that, you're going to add to the grid too as well, and they might kind of not give you the same amount of money, but at least you will have non-stop supply of electricity.
Yes.
And for us, Pakistan, to be 75 years old and not fulfill our energy resources for people to use, I think it's something which I just do not like about, you know. So imagine that, you know, we should have been so developed by this time that at least we shouldn't have these meager issues where we cannot fulfill the electricity. So the Prime Minister has rightfully mentioned that, you know, it's inevitable, you know, for our prosperity, for our progress, and for people to be comfortable at their places. Yeah.
True.
Imagine that's in winters you can certainly have a great time even without electricity, but in summers it really does get challenging.
I mean, yes. So moving on to another story, which is Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif says road and railway connectivity projects between Pakistan and Central Asian states will not only bring the trade communities together, but also usher in a new era of peace and prosperity in the region. And matter of the fact is that the Central Asian region is very rich in electricity, and Pakistan is energy deprived, or their resources are not as that to meet the needs of its population, and same goes for the South Asian country, our neighboring countries. So it's best that if we, Central Asia, can export the electricity from Pakistan towards the India, and obviously it will become energy corridor. And when it becomes an energy corridor, of course, that means that it can fulfill its needs. Also, it can earn money out of that, and it can create opportunities, business opportunities for itself.
And we really need to do it in this continent as well. But very quickly, moving on to how.
So now moving on to our segment, which is about the self-actualization, which is about the Maslow's hierarchy of the needs, and it certainly lies at the top of that. So there's a lot of talk about self-transcendence, self-actualization. What does that mean? How can we relate it with our religion, Islam? What does the Islam say? And how it is being appropriated in this new psychology by the Maslow. So in order to have this wholesome discussion, we are very glad that we have been joined by a wonderful guest who happens to be Colonel retired Muhammad Akmal Khan Saab. He is also a motivational speaker. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Right.
So it's wonderful to have you over here after a long time, first of all, and it's always very pleasing to see you. And, you know, thank you very much for gracing the occasion. Wonderful to have such a learned man over here inside our studios. Now, obviously, when we speak about self-actualization, sir, what we learned in our universities back in those days were that, you know, okay, first of all, you know, your physiological self-esteem and all of these requirements will fulfill, and only then you will come at stage where you will be like that, okay, you know, I've actualized what myself is, and then we'll continue with that. I think that's the epitome of success, that if you get self-actualization in your life, alhamdulillah, you call yourself a successful human being. Is it always really important that that's how the chart will work, just the way Maslow actually make us understood?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much. In fact, you were talking about the pigeons in the beginning, and you were talking about the various usage of this pigeon.
True.
Its romanticism, the type of usage was since olden days is the messaging between the long distances.
True. SMS.
So,
WhatsApp, I think.
You very rightly pointed out. The SMS, the old time SMS was the usage of this pigeon.
True.
The potentials of this bird were known but discovered by the human being.
True.
And then it was used.
Great.
So this is the actualization of that usage, the potentials which were
Which we have,
existing.
which we possess.
And same is the case with the human beings.
True.
We have been bestowed with tremendous potentials in all dimensions. May it be emotional, may it be physical, may it be intellectual or spiritual. So all these dimensions, they in fact, they enwrap you to make a human being.
Yeah.
Right. And sir, to talk further about it, we have seen that obviously the Maslow was from the West, and we've seen the Western Enlightenment focuses a lot on the liberation, on the emancipation. And having said so, if we look in our traditional belief system, which is Islam, obviously, we have seen that we will find the concept of self-transcendence, self-actualization there in the form of the tasawwuf and in that system. So why do you think we have to move towards the Maslow to realize our potential? Why not look towards Islam and finding it in the first place? Because I do feel it is just the, change of the words which is there, but the belief system is the same.
Very, very good question. Very good question. In fact, for the younger generation, to understand it as to what is self-actualization is, you have to build it through the Maslow's. Maslow gives us a little understanding of the human needs as physiological, instinctive things.
Psychological.
Then security needs. Then making a social system
Love and
out of it.
belonging.
Social system out of it.
Yes.
It is a need of the human being. And then self-esteem. Now we are, as human beings, we are somewhere stuck in this self-esteem.
True.
Egos.
It's
Egos.
difficult for us to
Egos.
go beyond that.
Yes, we are stuck in
And
this.
egos are fragile.
True, very fragile.
The self-actualization is in fact is the after having discovered your potentials, after you have given a signature in your society, now it is the time that you start paying back to the society.
Yep.
You get out of yourself, you get out of your eminent needs which you have already been fulfilled, Maslow as he says. In fact, the Marde Momin of Islam, the Marde Momin of Allama Iqbal, he starts his life from this self-actualization.
True. It's the other way around.
It's the other way around.
कि मेरी खैर है ਤੁਹਾਡਾ हो जावे.
Absolutely so. Absolutely so. Once you talk of self-actualization and you forget about Khudi, then you are not knowing anything.
True.
You are just bewildered into nowhereness.
Exactly.
So, I amness, who I am, and why I have been made, it's a very basic question which human beings are asking since its inception.
And they've been asking themselves for a longer period of time.
Why? As to why we were created.
Yes.
So, the self-actualization gives you that linkage between you and the Creator for a Marde moment.
Exactly.
وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنفُسَهُمْ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. Allah says to the Ahle Iman that you don't forget me. If you will forget me, Allah says, I'll make you forget yourself.
True.
The potentials which I have installed in you will be switched off. And so is happening with this Ya ayyuhallazina amanu today. We have forgotten our Creator.
True.
Khudi ka sirre neha la ilaha illallah. The peak of self-actualization, the cutting edge of self-actualization is the La ilaha illallah. No God but God. So self-actualization is just does not give us us to actualize ourselves.
Exactly, which is why, sir, I think it's a very common thing, and people might have heard it as well. And when I read, I think that's the very basic. So, एक तुम्हारी चाहत है, एक मेरी चाहत है, Allah is saying. पर अगर तुम वो चाहोगे जो मेरी चाहत है, तो मैं तुम्हें वो भी दूंगा जो तुम्हारी चाहत है. मगर अगर तुम वो चाहोगे जो तुम्हारी चाहत है, तो मैं तुम्हें थुका दूंगा उसमें जो मेरी चाहत है. So something of that sort, I think what we really need to kind of reflect upon is that over here, when we speak as a Muslim, I think self-actualization, very well understood, is the first part. because majority of the times, I think Prophet's life and what Allah has told us is that you really need to look around and look after the people you have around you. So
And
how do we do that?
In fact, it jets out from the from the same stem. The self-actualization part is not complete unless you start looking around
True.
and then doing good for them.
And not putting yourself in the first place, not putting yourself in the top priority. So how do we do that? I mean, that's something which we see very seldom over here in today's time and age.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Holy Quran that there are certain type of people whom Allah love.
Yeah.
Those who do justice, those who persevere, जो सब्र करते हैं, जो तवक्कल करते हैं.
True.
These are the people which you cannot enter into this domain unless you have self-actualized yourself.
True.
And let's pontificate over our existence, because human beings are after these questions for quite some time, for I think as long as we were created, as to why we were created, right? So a lot of people say that we were created to perform ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I do feel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had malaik or the angels for that, and they're more obedient than us humans, right? But still we were created. So as when we talk about the self-actualization, when we talk about the self-transcendence, and when we invoke the Islamism or Islamic teachings into as to explore why we were created, where do you find the answer for that?
There are 4 components which a human being is made up of.
For example.
The spiritual component,
Yep.
emotional component, intellectual component, and the physical component.
Yeah.
True.
All these 4 components make a human being.
True.
And they all are equal. They all are 100% to make a
The
complete human
ingredients
being.
need to be 100% of all of these 4.
100%. And we know that our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is made the best of best human beings.
True.
Of all times. So he was in full energy, 100% of all these.
Yeah.
And we, through the ages, we have scrolled down to the bottom. Probably 1, 2, 3% of our is taking care of us in these modern worlds. In fact, the most important part of our is the emotional part. The emotional component is the one for which we are answerable hereafter.
True. Yeah.
And not the
the way
intellectual
we are
part.
with people as well, yes.
Yes, that makes a society.
And very rightly, sir, you pointed out, and Shahzad also very well mentioned that how do we find self-transcendence, self-actualization in an age, in an era which is geared towards a lot of consumption, materialistic consumption, where we find that people are running after money, it's capitalism which is dominating, and when they talk about the emancipation or the liberation, they're mostly talking about going after your every need, after your every desire, right? So in this era, I do feel the people are going towards self-satisfaction rather than self-transcendence. How do we find self-transcendence in a very capitalistic dominated
Because
society?
we are becoming more self-centered.
True.
Gratitude. Start gratituding. Shukr ada kare. See around that how much you are blessed.
Right.
Start counting the blessings for which you are not even paying anything.
True.
So once you start tashakkur जब आ जाता है ना, तो फिर then you start knowing yourself as a human being.
Right.
At this very moment, we all are in competition with each other. I don't know. We know all the results that what's going to be ending up,
Yeah.
but still, by design, by default, we are.
That's how we are.
That's how we are.
Exactly. And sir, in addition to that, which is why, because when we speak of Maslow's hierarchy, obviously we have epitome of success, and that too our religion gives us, Allah has given us, and that's a gift, the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But sir, eventually what happens is, I mean, for me, as a kid, when I started off my career, you know, for me to be at a point, obviously it is only because of Allah Almighty that we have been doing it. But somewhere, you know, that self-esteem kind of pushes us to kind of consider that, you know, it has always been me, you know, and I have worked hard and, you know, I have done this, you know, so there's a lot of me, first of all. And then I think that's the real hurdle in getting to a point of self-actualization, because we kind of, a lot of times, just push ourselves. We want people to praise us. We want people to kind of give us that credit.
Right.
And, you know, even Quran actually tells us that you really do not have to praise your own self. Allah knows who's more worthy. So do you think that most of the time us keeping ourselves in the first place is a hurdle which does not let us move towards self-actualization?
A beautiful piece of poetry, of course in Urdu.
Sure.
May you allow me. Since my childhood, I kept listening this. फख्र बकरे ने किया, मैं हूँ इस जहां में दूसरा कोई नहीं.
सही.
जब न की मैं तरक इस सिफला पा सफाक ने, फेर दी तब छुरी उसकी गर्दन पर कसाब ने. गोश्त, हड्डी और चमड़ा जो था जानेजार में, कुछ बिका, कुछ पका, कुछ लुट गया बाजार में. रह गई आंतें सिर्फ मैं सुनाने के लिए.
क्या बात है सर, क्या बात है.
Right.
रह गई आंतें सिर्फ मैं सुनाने के लिए. ले गया नदाफ उसको धुलकी बनाने के लिए. अच्छा, नदाफ इज अ पर्सन who separates रूही फ्रॉम इट्स सीड्स.
ओके.
तो वो गट्स के जो बनाता है, आंतों की वो गट बनाता है और उसके ऊपर फिर वो डंडा मारता है तो आवाज आती है तुम. जब ना कि मैं तरक इस सिफला पा सफाक ने, फेर दी तब उसकी गर्दन पर छुरी कसाब ने. गोश्त, हड्डी और चमड़ा जो था जाने जार में, कुछ बिका, कुछ पका, कुछ लुट गया बाजार में. रह गई आंतें सिर्फ मैं सुनाने के लिए. ले गया नदाफ उनको धुनकी बनाने के लिए. चोट से सोटे की जिस्म तांत थर्राने लगी. मैं के बदले तू ही तू की फिर सदा आने लगी.
क्या बात है.
We have to include our Creator in our every second
Of our life.
सांस जो हम लेते हैं, उसके साथ हमें अपने अल्लाह के साथ हमें अपने आप को जोड़ना होगा.
Exactly.
That's true.
अगर हम उससे अलहदा हो जाएंगे तो हमें हमारी जात से भुला दिया जाएगा.
That's
This is the baseline.
Exactly.
That's very true, and thank you so much, sir, for saying that. And obviously, this brings us to the conclusion of this segment. And I once again say and reiterate that Islam is a full way of life. It's a way of life, and I think we are forgetting that it is a full way of life, and we need to incorporate that in our ideals, in our way of life, and we need to revert back to the tradition of Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because if you see the modern literature, which is geared towards the emancipation, liberation, you will find that this system was taught by Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam way back 1400 years ago. Self-transcendence, self-actualizations, they are actually the concepts that were introduced by the Islam, and they are there in the different version, in different language, and in different names, but they're always there.
And Haja, thank you very much for saying that, because imagine that, you know, once you start on this journey, ladies and gentlemen,
True.
obviously the most amazing and the most important components would be faith,
True.
you know, modesty, humbleness, and you're
Gratitude.
obviously liberating other people if you're not taking
True.
advantage of an opportunity and you're sharing it with somebody else.
Right.
Our religion tells us that if you're going to give somebody way, for example, if you were on a traffic light, you had a green light and somebody else had a red light, and they were in a rush and they already broke the signal, so you stood by and you gave them that opportunity to pass by. Imagine Allah will give you another opportunity where He is going to open up doors for you as well, only if you understand that, because that's
Right.
something which is going to come with faith. And when we speak about liberation, just the way,
Right.
imagine that you giving your opportunity to somebody else is you liberating somebody else, you giving them that opportunity that you can do it. So for self-actualization, I think it's really important to be selfless in the first place, and that's something which we can get from the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. With that, we are heading out towards a short break. Make sure that you work out on this. And next up, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about a profession. Whether do you think that it can make a lot of money? A lot of kids are actually onto it as well. A lot of people or their kids actually want DSLRs these days.
Right.
And majority of the people do not even know what DSLR stands for. So, I think that's something we will be talking about in the next segment. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you
sir.
very much. Thank you very
Wonderful.
much, sir.
Welcome back, and like Shahzad mentioned, we're going to talk about a profession which is very popular nowadays, and especially with the advent of Instagram, which is more pictorial representation. We've seen that the proliferation of DSLRs is a lot, and it's very self-sustainable too, because a lot of people, they are capturing the photos, they are capturing the moments, and then they're putting on the social media, and it's running. And I would like to quote here a very inspirational story. So what happened was that a lot of people were getting the jobs, they didn't get the jobs, so they were being fired. And there was this one person from South Punjab. He was actually a journalist, and he was fired from his workplace because they couldn't sustain him. So he went back and he gathered a group of friends who were also fired like that, and he started the photography, and he started selling those pictures to the newspapers out there. So from there he actually started a business out of nowhere, and he is very successful. So I do feel that that's a very success story.
Exactly. So necessity, ladies and gentlemen, has always been the mother of invention. But without any further ado, photography as a profession, whether it helps you pay your bills, whether it helps you be a millionaire, whether it helps you go for a foreign visit every year, I think that's where we will be discussing. We're very lucky that we've been joined by one of the most amazing photographers in the Twin Cities, ladies and gentlemen. She happens to be Miss Masuma Zubairi. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. Good morning to you as well.
Thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful
Thank
to have you.
Thank you so much for calling me.
And it's because of you people that earlier, when we used to go to the weddings, there would be this male photographer. Bhajan aise kar le, bhajan aise kar le. Finally, we get to see women a lot as well. I think they're more creative. That's certainly something. They put in more effort because, even you go on a wedding. For example, even if you're not a photographer, for example, my sister on my wedding would be, your sherwani is not fine, you can do this and that. So attention to detail is something very important. But photography as a profession, how has it been for you?
It was quite challenging at first, but when you know how to deal with the people around you, you know how to take out good pictures.
All right.
Fighting, side pe ho jao, idhar ho jao, and you're on the chairs, you're on the walls, and you're capturing the best moment out of that, and you know that you're getting the best quality out of it, and you're proving it.
Yeah.
So you're in the market then.
I think with quality, obviously that's there, but nowadays what people are looking for is creative ideas, and I've seen a lot of people.
All they want is bouquet effect, the blurry effect, and that's it.
That's it?
That's it.
That's all they want.
They don't want this, the quality, the major quality of being, a candid moment. They're only looking for something very blurry at the background and a very prominent.
So defocus.
Yes.
A little in the background.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. But what my point over here is that, there's a lot of creativity now.
Yes.
And people do try to be creative, but then at times it backfires. I've seen a lot of couples posing in a way where you should really be posing that way. And I was like, the photographer should have actually said
yes,
or asked for such a pose as well. No, but it's usually the photographers who say, aap bhaji is tarah ho jaye, aur phir aap bhajan is tarah ho jaye. And then you look at it.
Direction matters.
Yes, that's exactly.
The most important part, in movies, the director is supposed to be
True.
supposed to be telling
Even
you
in
everything.
dramas, so
Yes.
when I was working for dramas, it was always the director who's going to get that talent out of
Exactly.
you. So how do you do it? Does it get challenging at times?
It's very challenging. It's very sometimes I actually tell myself, okay, calm down. You need to calm down. And I'm telling my clients, okay, you have to stand like this. I'm telling also my team that you have to get out something really really
really
good.
have to be on your toes.
Yes.
And
if
you're
it's
hungry.
daylight, the light should not be that harsh. Find some shadows. Find some there
And
is
you need
certain
to be hungry for that.
exactly.
Exactly, that okay, so I'm going to do it myself rather than Masuma coming and telling me if I'm her team.
But I would love to do it myself because
team
I know
member.
I would do it the best.
Exactly, but then that's the problem. So imagine that prior to a shooting day, I would always, me and Hajra and our producers, I will have a very different set of mindset. Now what happens is that when you have a very different mindset, you're on location now and things are not the way that you've been thinking, and all of a sudden you have to kind of improvise over there. So do you think that improvisation gets challenging? And not just that, because we short on time, so I would want you to kind of reiterate how much hard work it is. So people think that for a photographer to take pictures and then go back home, edit them, it's a longer journey. I understand it.
It almost take 10 to 15 days for us, but we actually challenge ourselves to do it in 1 or 2 days.
And how much editing goes into it?
Quite a long
So
hours.
do you get these
long
requests?
hours.
You get these requests where the groom's like, "Yeah,
Yes.
थोड़ा और white कर देना ज़रा,"
Yes.
or the bride's like, my dress
share
really
1 or
needs to
2
look like this.
pictures, please. And if it's 500 pictures, you have to pick out one and you have to send them just to they have to put their
Display picture and all
picture
that.
on the social media. So it's okay. But the most challenging part this year I have faced, as we've talked about the thing, the teaching thing. Right in this year, I actually injured my ankle from 3 sides, and I wasn't able to do the photography for more than like 5 months. So I was on my toes, and I was telling on call to my team that what exactly you have to do.
True.
So that was the biggest challenge of my life in this year.
And then how did you come over that?
Video calls and
Zoom
Zoom sessions. And telling them that okay, यहाँ से ले लो, ये कर लो, take them there, and this is the best location because I've been there. I know that this is the spots they can
And
carry
did
out
that
for
ever
them.
happen that so you've done with the shoot and now it's time to kind of give them those albums, and then all of a sudden they took a good look at the album, were like, yeah, you know what, we're not satisfied with the kind of work
So
you
we
put
have
in,
to- we
so it
have
might
to-
not. And in majority of the times, what I've
True,
seen
yes.
is that people do that so that they won't have to pay the full price, so that they can bargain and they
Sometimes,
can
yes.
negotiate. Yeah, you do come across, not everybody is amazing and generous and whatnot. You do come across a lot of cheaper people as well, unfortunately.
What I actually do is I give them samples. Okay, this is the material. This is the thing. If you're satisfied, I'm going to make your album.
Yeah.
This is the sample.
So you play safe.
Yes.
And then
And-
do you think that it's going to this
And one
profession of
thing
photography?
more.
Yeah.
One thing more. I take 100% payment when I give them the raw data.
All right. So you take it.
Yes.
No advance
That's
payments.
my rule. That's
so
the
no
rule of
advance
mine.
payments for you.
Advance payment
Yeah.
first.
50%.
Yeah, 50%. And then when I'm
50%
giving
on raw data.
when I'm giving them the raw data, the
Yeah.
full 100% data, they have to pay me 100%.
But I've seen photographers most of the time are not delivering on time too. Yeah. I think from a client's perspective, from a customer's perspective, that's something which I've seen. Oh, sir, वो album दुबई से आई थी, तो वो भी आ रही है, वो रास्ते में. What are the most lamest excuses you might have made over the period of your career?
Yeah, because it was once when I lost my data. And then I recovered it, and then after 10
God.
days I have this was
How were you feeling then when you lost your data? Oh
it was
my
horrible.
God.
It was horrible. It was like बहुत ही वो था.
Because that's exactly the
Obviously, it's a very tense for you. But let's talk about the scope of this field, because I feel that a lot of people who have the DSLRs and they're doing it on their own, so there's a lot of saturation in that field
Yes.
too, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So how do you see this scope rolling out, and also how do you find the difference between a photography for a wedding, for a drama shoots, and for the movies?
Yeah, basically I'm a teacher as well.
Okay.
So there are different set of minds coming in my class.
Right.
So I cannot touch only one genre like wedding.
True.
I only
Right.
go whatever the students demand, and I teach them.
Okay.
So that's why I know how to do product photography, wedding photography, because when I don't know anything, I can't teach them.
Okay.
So coming from there, it is very challenging. Why? Because sometimes the quality and everything. Being a woman, first of all, being a woman is a challenge.
True.
First of all, and secondly, the second question you've asked is that how I have given my 100% to this. Being passionate about something is really important.
True.
When you're doing a business, and
Right.
in my case, I know that my punchline is quality as it's promised. So I have to give the best quality out of it.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
to prove my work. So
Right.
if any youngster wants to be a photographer, he needs or she needs to be very, very careful. While if you're delivering the best, you will get the best feedback out of it.
Right.
You need to be passionate about that particular thing.
Exactly,
Right.
but at times, with passion comes a lot of other challenges as well. For example,
Yeah.
your younger siblings, Api, please, yeah, I need a good picture. I do not have a good picture for my Insta, or younger cousins. So, for people who are passionate, they obviously look after, their instruments too. So there's a
Yes.
certain period which you can take through your camera, shoot through it as well, because there's certain,
Right.
it's all restricted.
Yes.
So how do you make sure that you're updating your equipment on daily basis as well, because that's where technology has taken us, and how much do you think that the softwares have made it easier for photographers to kind of deliver quality?
I would not say softwares, but I would say equipment. Yes.
Yes.
You need to save few money from your events, and then you can
Upgrade.
I have used D50 300, and it was a very, very minor kind of a DSLR. So if you have the aesthetic sense, D53 is good enough for you.
Yeah.
If you have that aesthetic sense of picking out the best shot in that particular
But
environment.
D5 and D7s, we've spoken about it. I mean, with video, I think the technology has progressed quite a lot now.
Yes.
So now with an iPhone you can shoot 4K and all of that defocus. So certainly, do you think that it is high time for people to invest in cameras or rather on their phones?
But it doesn't change the mindset of our people. They only need the high resolution and heavy cameras in our hands.
What can get better than 4K?
Yeah, but even if we take that mirrorless camera, ye kya le aaye ho? They have this mindset. They get patthar
And they want
bana
on
hua
the, I think it's a status symbol that they
Exactly.
want
Yes.
drones flying in their
Yes,
weddings and,
yes.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But thank you very much,
Thank
Masuma,
you so
Thank you
much.
so
for
much.
being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you, and for people who are out there, ladies and gentlemen, quality being delivered as promised. That's the tagline, and we've always seen Masuma delivering that way. May it be an event, may it be a wedding, may it be any other function, drama or film.
Right.
And if that's what you want to do in life, please make sure that you follow their work, learn from people. There are a lot of tutorials out there on YouTube. And to learn in today's time and age, it's really simple. So if somebody in today's time is going to come up with an excuse, I would certainly not take that as an excuse as well.
So thank you so much, Masuma. And until next time, it's a good boy and good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.